Hello everyone, my name is Jason, aka Bacon Chest, coach of the St Kilda Serperiors. Welcome to week 1 of the ICBA D-League, where the Serperiors are taking on Coach Ryo and the Pittsburgh Huge Powers. Going into this game, I was really looking forward to this matchup. I don't think we got to play Ryo in Season 1 of the ICBA D-League before it finished preemptively. Yeah, really looking forward to having our first match against one of the other returning coaches from Season 1. Ryo's team is quite scary. It's very bulky, it has some quite intimidating threats, and it's reasonably well-rounded. So what does he have on his roster? You should be able to see it on the right-hand side of your screen, but it is Celesteela, Latios, Conkeldurr, Darmanitan, Shaymin, Magneton, Minior, Rybombi, Darkrai, Piloswine, and Gorbis. With the Zmons being Latios, Minior, and Darkrai. Yeah, this is quite a threatening roster. Obviously, you've got a couple of very niche threats in the form of Gorbis and Minior that can both click Shell Smash, so that's something that obviously I had to keep in mind for prep. You've got a Quiver sweeper in the form of Rybombi, and you've got really good Scarf options in the form of Magneton and Darmanitan, but one of which I was kind of expecting to come, and as you can see, none of that comes. I was kind of expecting like at least one or two of those ones, and actually what we end up seeing is the Darkrai, which I very much did expect, the Latios, which I also very much did expect, the Celesteela, the Piloswine, the Shaymin, and the Conkeldurr. I'm going to go over my team a little bit, and then we'll get into the match. So basic game plan with this team was to set up rocks, punish switch-ins with really good neutral coverage on all my mons, which I was able to do in this game because, yeah, like my team generally has quite good neutral offensive coverage against, I hope, most teams, but particularly like I did find in this matchup. And then potentially try and sweep or at least break with a Dragon Dance, Fightinium Z Komodo, with Close Combat, Dragon Claw, and Fire Punch. Fire Punch sounds a bit weird, because it's obviously not necessarily doing more than Close Combat against things like Celesteela, but it is actually my only way of hitting Rybombi, because otherwise that thing literally walled Komodo and could just come in and revenge me at any point. So yeah, we needed Fire Punch there. The other mons are a Tailwind, Hurricane Heatwave U-Turn, Expert Belt Tornadus, Bulky Yachi Berry Stealth Rock Scarchomp, dual Assault Vest users in Primarina and Drapion, with Primarina being largely there for the Latios and Drapion being entirely there for the Darkrai, although it obviously also takes on the Latios, and then a bulky Life Orb Meloetta, which was a good way of just sort of tanking neutral hits from things like Conkeldurr and Celesteela and hitting back really, really hard against those things with things like Psyshock and Thunderbolt. And also just like Hyper Voice did a lot of damage to my opponent's team. And yeah, we decided not to bring a few of our other threats in this game. So you can see I didn't bring either of my things that hit Celesteela super effectively in the forms of Rotom Frost or Heatran. Just because, in the terms of Heatran, my opponent has a lot of things that hit it with Earthquake or Earth Power. Obviously Conkeldurr is a huge problem for Heatran. It just wasn't the best. And then Rotom Frost obviously can't actually really take on Celesteela, because if Celesteela can Autotomize on the way in, it can then just heavy slam me into oblivion. So that was a bit of a problem. We decided not to bring Deoxys, partly because it doesn't have a great time with defensive Celesteela. It didn't have a great lead matchup against Piloswine, and it didn't have a particularly good time with Darkrai, particularly if you ran something like Focus Sash or Choppleberry, then we didn't really have a way of dealing with that. And then we didn't bring Lycanroc because it has huge problems with Piloswine. And then, we also didn't bring, things like Lycanroc because they didn't have a good speed matchup against something like Darkrai. So that was a bit of a problem as well. So, let's get into the game. We decided to lead off with our Primarina, because as you can see, my opponent has one switch into Primarina in the form of Shaman, and I didn't expect Shaman to be the lead. I expected it to be Piloswine, maybe Darkrai, maybe, like, Lardy? But yeah, we're just going to lead with Primarina, threaten out this Piloswine with the Scald, and I'm just going to click that straight off the bat, just in case he does decide to value Rocks early game. We get 14% and a burn on the Shaman, and that immediately tells me this is a very, very bulky Shaman. Because I am max special attack, you know, modest, coming off of a 127 special attack or whatever it is on Primarina. And so, yeah, we know that this thing is really bulky. We see that it has leftovers. We get the burn, which is quite nice, because that's obviously going to nullify those leftovers. But, yeah. So we've got a couple of good switch-ins to Shaman, which was the other reason why I didn't really care about leading off with Primarina. If we had have been put on the back foot by an unexpected Shaman lead, we have a couple of good switch-ins. We have our Assault Vest Drapion, which obviously I don't want to take too much damage, because there is... like, Darkrai has a way of breaking past me with Z moves. It's not a particularly likely way of breaking past me, but Z Focus Blast is a bit of an issue. So I do decide to go out to my other sort of switch in for this thing, which is Tornadus. Tornadus doesn't need a huge amount of health, because it basically is here to set Practice a Tailwind in the late game, as we take 30% from a Seed Flare. And because I did know that he was defensive, I kind of wasn't expecting this to do much damage. The other really useful thing about that is, this means this Shaman probably doesn't outspeed my Komolo. Which is potentially useful for later in the game. So yeah, we were hoping to threaten this thing out with the potential for a Hurricane right now, and so I just decided to click U-turn, expecting him to switch. But he decides to keep this thing. Decides to potentially sack this thing to a Hurricane. I'm assuming he was going to live that with his special defense investment, but the thing is that HP Ice doesn't kill me due to the fact that he has no special attack investment. So yeah, I'm not really sure what the premise of that, but I mean, I suppose HP Ice puts me in range of Ice Shard from Piloswine, puts me in range potentially of something like Mark Punch from Kelder, but, you know, it is what it is. So we're forced to go out into Drapion. We take what I assume was a HP Ice very, very well. We're still at 90%. That's cool. I'm not too worried about that kind of damage. Even if he gets Rocks up, we're still going to live a Fightinium Z Focus Blast later in the game, which is the set that I'm worried about on Darkrai at the moment. Although obviously a Nasty Plot set would be an issue, especially if it was Nasty Plot plus Z. So we just click Knockoff, because I didn't really need to click Poison Jab in that situation, because knocking off the leftovers from Shaman would also be useful, and it literally can't do anything to me. Even an Earth Power wasn't going to do very much. We get a crit on the incoming Celesteela, which is pretty damn handy, just because it means this thing is no longer going to be able to effectively Leech Seed, Protect Stormy, and, you know, it puts it in range of a lot of... It puts it, like, definitely in range of a lot of my coverage moves, like Thunderbolt or Firefang from my Garchomp. Sorry, Firefang from my Garchomp, Thunderbolt from my Meloetta, for clarification. Or Heat Wave from my Tornadus. Without the crit, probably still would have been in range for, like, the T-Bolt, but maybe not for the... Definitely not for the Firefang. Maybe not for the... Yeah, probably not for the Firefang or the Heat Wave. But anyway, so we're able to do good damage there, so that's nice. The incoming Earthquake is really obvious, so I'm going to go out to Garchomp and get my Rocks up. Because that puts me in quite a good position. We're able to get Rocks up and threaten this thing out with a potential Fire move. Goes out to Piloswine as we get up those Rocks, and I'm kind of expecting the return Rocks here. So I just go straight to Primarina to offensively pressure his team once again, as he actually clicks Earthquake, which is kind of good, because I don't need a huge amount of health on Primarina at this point, because it's kind of done its job of pressuring Piloswine into not getting Rocks up. So we just click the Scald again, we get the burn again, first turn, on the Shaman, which, yeah, like, is a bit lucky. But as you can see, as you're about to see, we do engage in a bit of a Store War with the Shaman. As I'm going to click Moonblast on the first turn of this, because I was kind of expecting, like, I was to some extent expecting a switch out. And/or I was expecting to be killed with Seed Flare. Because Seed Flare did around 46% with no investment. 46 to 50, I think. As we do like 33% with Moonblast, which is like, oh my god, this is just such a bulky Shaman. We get a special attack drop though, which is amazing, because now we live Seed Flare, which is really, really good. He's going to have to use 2 to break us, So that's pretty cool. As we click the Ice Beam, we do 38%, and I'm like, Jesus, how bulky is this Shaman that it's taking 38% from an Ice Beam? Although I do notice the next turn when I click Ice Beam again, it does 45, and I'm like, oh, okay, that was just a really low roll the first time. But yeah, we're keeping the Shaman relatively low, as he's going to keep clicking Synthesis, because he is gaining a little bit of health back each turn, particularly depending on the rolls that I get. But that's okay, I just need to keep this Shaman at the point where I can kill it with something like Komodo, if I'm, you know, at +1, where I can kill it off easily enough with Tornadus, or Meloetta. But yeah, so this is pretty boring, unfortunately, but yeah, you can just kind of see that we're slowly stalling him out. Eventually he is going to kill us with Seed Flare, but yeah, I think this is the turn, because he gets to 53, goes down to 47 because of the burn, and then kills us off with Seed Flare. Cool, that's fine. Primarina did its job of offensively pressuring, stopping the rocks from going up, so that was quite useful. We bring out Torn, and I'm going to click, I believe, Hurricane here, yeah, because he just no longer actually has good Hurricane switch-ins, because Tornadus was so weakened from earlier. Given that Hurricane did 20, which has, what, about 165 base power, versus Heatwave's got 95, 190, but a bit more because of Expert Belt, so about 210 versus 165, 80, so yeah, I mean, like, Heatwave, just doing some, like, minor calcs in my head, because I didn't actually calc this at the time, because I didn't really care at the time whether or not the crit knockoff from earlier would have made a difference to this situation, but no, it absolutely wouldn't have. Like, if Hurricane's doing 20, then Heatwave's doing at least, like, 40, which easily makes up for the difference, in damage that would have resulted had I not crit that knockoff. So yeah, we're able to get rid of the Celesteela, and that's pretty handy. It allows me to... it doesn't actually allow all that much. I mean, I suppose I can now click Poison Jab freely with my Drapion. Yeah, like, it was mostly just a nuisance mon, but, you know, we'd kind of nullified it a bit earlier in the game. But yeah, he's forced to sack that off. He brings out the Latios here. And I'm sort of like, okay, I want to know if this thing is Scarfed, because that affects how I play my Komodo and how I play the endgame. If he is Scarf, and he clicks Draco here and kills us, then we can set up with Komodo, and he pretty much has to switch, because otherwise, because if he clicks Draco again, he's not going to kill us, and we can go to +2, or we can just kill him. With the Dragon Claw. So, yeah, or we could go out to pretty much anything on our team, frankly, and kill this Latios. So that's quite handy. So I'm sort of like, cool, I don't want him to get up rocks. Get up rocks. I don't want him to defog for free. But I was kind of expecting a defog here, because he did live Hurricane, so I just decided to click U-turn, as he is Scarf, and he clicks defog, so both of the potential things I was thinking about were true, just not, I wasn't expecting both of them to be true at the same time. Scarf defog is obviously a free Dragon Dance, for Komodo, so that's really good. There's no reason for me not to click Dragon Dance. I only take around 40, I believe, from Piloswine's Ice Shard. And obviously we destroy Piloswine with close combat. So yeah, we're just going to click Dragon Dance as he switches, decides to go in the Conkeldurr. That's really nice, because this thing is obviously, if Komodo's taken damage, then Mark Punch can potentially revenge me. It is also a threat to things like Meloetta, and it's also a threat to Drapion later in the game. So I'm really happy to just be clicking my Z close combat and just destroying this thing's life. I believe it actually did have a chance of living that, like a very minute chance depending on the spread, but thankfully we don't have to be concerned about that, because it just goes down. So now that we've gotten rid of that thing, he has to go back into the Scarf Lati, has to click Draco here, because obviously if he goes for a Psychic move, then I could potentially be switching into Drapion, and he may not know that I'm Assault Vest at this point. Like, he may not have calced the damage from Shaman earlier with HP Ice and maybe just kind of assumed, oh yeah, that seems about right. But regardless, he doesn't... like, I could potentially also Pursuit Trap him with Drapion. So yeah, I think he was just kind of like, no, let's just click the Draco. That's also definitely going to kill on the Komodo. That allows me to go straight out into Meloetta because, as I said, I'm not going to go out into Drapion because I need Drapion for later in the game to stop Darkrai from sweeping my team. So yeah, we take that Draco really well, and this is just a very, very free Hyper Voice for Meloetta right now, because that's just going to do a lot of damage to everything. As you can see, over 50 to Piloswine. That's really good. He decides to keep Piloswine, which makes sense because it's got the Ice Shard, which hits like 3 of my 5 members super effectively at this point in the game. Excuse me. And also it allows him to potentially stall the Life Orb hits out of my Meloetta. And as you can see, that's exactly what he attempts to do, as I decide to click Psyshock, because I know that he's very specially defensive, so you can see we are able to do a little bit more damage than we were doing with Hyper Voice with Psyshock, as that kind of forces him to kill us off, because he was taking more than half, so he wasn't going to recover any health over time. Or the amount he was going to recover was fairly negligible. That's really good, because it allows us to click U-turn with our Tornadus and just finally get rid of the Shaman, which has just been such an annoyance this whole game. Okay, at this point, we're 4 months to 3, we've got a slight advantage, particularly with Prankster Tailwind in the back. I had to bring out Garchomp here, and the reason for that was that so if I brought out Drapion after the U-turn, that forced in Piloswine, and I don't have a switch into Piloswine. So that was a problem. If I brought out Komodo, that brings in the Lati, and I don't have a switch into Lati, so that's a problem. And if I brought out Torn, that brought in Piloswine or Lati, and as I said, I don't have, basically I don't have a switch into Piloswine or Lati at this point in the game. So I brought out Garchomp because, obviously that's going to bring out Piloswine. Obviously, I can live a hit because of my Archieberry. I have a chance to kill with Earthquake here. I'd need a very high roll, but regardless, I can put this Piloswine in range of U-turn from Tornadus, which is really, really handy because then obviously we have a guaranteed way of killing it without taking Ice Shard Chip on either Komodo or Drapion. Because otherwise we are going to have to rely on a move to hit. And I really wanted to put myself in a situation where the only way I could lose was maybe like a crit, rather than the only way I can lose being a 70% accurate Hurricane. So yeah, we tanked the Ice Shard really easily. As you can see, we actually would have tanked that regardless of the Archieberry, but obviously we're not going to tank the second one. And we do go down. We unfortunately don't get the range on that Earthquake, but that's okay. So now I can bring out Tornadus because I am bulky enough on this Tornadus to be able to live this Ice Shard with reasonable comfort and get off a U-turn, kill off this thing. If he did decide to switch out here, wanting to keep the Ice Shard for later, then obviously U-turn puts huge pressure on Darkrai, puts huge pressure on Latios. And whatever he brought out, if it was Latios, then we go... Yeah, regardless of which one he brought out, we could bring out Drapion, and, beat one of those things 1v1. So, yeah, we're able to get off the U-turn. Cool, now we've basically won the game, because we have Tornadus in the back, and Drapion beats one of these mons, and then the second one beats me, and then I click Tailwind with Tornadus, and then we win the game with Komodo. So yeah, this was basically checkmate. We are able to show off our Drapion set, as he's able to actually show off his Darkrai set, which actually has Spatial Rend, which is pretty cool, because that lets him hit Komodo super effectively. He actually turned out, after the game, that he was Focus Sash on Darkrai. So if Latios had been carrying Earthquake, for example. No, if you've been carrying Earthquake after the first one, I can just switch into Torn. Yeah, if his Latios had a way of breaking through Drapion in the same, like breaking Drapion down in the same way that Darkrai was able to there, where it's able to get me down to around 30%. And if the Latios had been able to put me in range of Darkrai, then Darkrai actually probably does win the game, because I would have to go out to Torn, I'd still have to click Tailwind, because otherwise I get outsped. I would then die with Torn, bring out Komodo, click Close Combat expected to kill, and then die to a Spatial Rend at -1, / definitely die to... die to a Spatial Rend at -1 potentially. I'm not sure exactly if that is how those calcs would work out, but thankfully this Latios doesn't have anything that would have been able to do that much damage to me in that sense. So yeah, he did have to bring out the Darkrai. The Darkrai goes down to 2 X-Scissors, and now Lati can click Draco and kill me. At this point, because he is at -2, I could have just gone out to Komodo and killed him with a Dragon Claw. I don't think he kills me at -2 with a Scarf. I bloody well hope not. But I wasn't risking that crit. I just did like 2-0 versus 1-0. I was not risking that crit, so we just go out to Torn, we click Tailwind, we lose Tornadus to the Draco after having had a really, really good game where it picked up 3 kills, and then we're able to bring out Komodo to finish off the game in style, click the Dragon Claw, and pick up our first win of the season in Week 1 of the ICBA D-League. So, really good game to Ryo and the Pittsburgh Huge Powers. This was a very, like, kind of chess-style game where I was trying to put myself in a position of checkmate the whole time. I imagine he was too. Thankfully, I had Drapion in the back as a really, really solid response to his two biggest offensive threats in the form of Latios and Darkrai. But yeah, his bulk was a real problem. Shaman especially was just a really, really huge issue throughout the game. Piloswine and Conkeldurr were in the back there. Thankfully, we were able to bob that Conkeldurr with a good use of his E-move, so that was really nice. So yeah, that's week 1, done and dusted. We pick up a win, start off our season in the same way we did last time. Hopefully we can do a little bit better moving forwards. I'm feeling quite confident in this team. I'm really enjoying building with it. And yeah, hoping to like continue to innovate some more interesting sets as we move forward throughout the season. So yeah, that's about it from me. So until next time, peace.